So I'm wondering about, Cathy, language, again. Du Bois gives us, right, double consciousness, right? The duality, the two-ness, which I've been watching the secretary experience all afternoon because as an identical twin, no one knows whether it's him or his brother, various kinds of things. So some of us experience two-ness in multiple ways. My dad is also a twin, it's very enjoyable to watch. But I also wonder, Cathy, if we actually, those of us who are sort of pathetic and pedantic, monolingual, single language speakers, are also somehow missing language to describe this thing that Baratunde is describing, right? That there isn't a word in US version English that holds together the Monticello experience, right? That holds together all persons are created equal and endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that aspirational sentence is the whole thing, and that is written by the man who holds his own children in intergenerational chattel bondage. We don't have a word for that other than like, what the?
The word is America.
I know. That's the
maybe
US
it
of A.
is.
Yeah.
But you are a wordsmith. You are doing this work between the experience of a thing and our capacity to describe it. It's part of what poetry does. Can you help me with the language to describe this thing? We talk about racial justice, but I don't even know quite yet how to describe the thing we're fighting for or against.
What we're doing right now, this racial justice, like how the struggle that we're going through right now, how to describe that?
Yeah.
I mean, we're coming up with those words right now. I would like to maybe steal someone else's word to talk, if you don't mind. I mean, I've been actually just thinking as you were talking about America and you were talking and thinking about anger and how actually anger is a form of optimism, is just, you have to, and I want more Asian Americans to be angry and not afraid to be angry. We all have to be angry. That shows that we're undefeated. That shows that we don't have this kind of helpless despair or indifference, which will kill us all. But to borrow someone else's word and thinking about this country and thinking about the fact that in 2045, 2050, the minorities will be the majority of this country. But what does that mean? Does that mean that we're just going to get rid of, the Trump supporters, the rural white people who don't want brown people crossing the border, or are they going to just recruit more of us? And this is what kind of keeps me up at night. Just because the country is becoming more diverse doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to be pushing towards the left. And we can't sleep on the fact that the demographic is changing. Asian Americans can come here, and what happened to rural whites, which is they vote against their own economic interests, can happen to Asian Americans, can happen to Latinx people, and so forth, where they also vote against their own economic interests and their own racial interests because of disinformation and whatever that's splitting this country apart right now. But the image that I often think about is this writer Fred Moten and Stefano Harney, who talked about this sort of Old West notion of the fort, and how when you watch these like classic Hollywood movies, there's the fort, and and you see the white military guys in the fort, and they're sort of heroically and valiantly sort of fighting, defending the fort against these quote-unquote savages who are invading their fort. And what they say is that it's actually the opposite, right? The white military guys are actually the occupiers. They're the ones who are actually invading, and the people who are outside the fort are actually the ones who are being invaded upon. So what Hollywood did, as they do with a lot of these movies about us, is tell the opposite story, tell what is actually the opposite of what is actually true, what is actual historical fact. And what Fred Moten was talking about was saying that we need to be the surround and be a part of that struggle. And I think that's sort of, if we're talking about words and talking about what's happening now, I think, and we're talking about like coalition building, which is a big concern of mine, is to be the surround, to understand that we're part of the surround, and we have to, and to try to kind of climb that ladder and to be in the fort will in fact accelerate the destruction of this country. And so it's a battle of, well, resources, politics, representation. It's also a battle of stories too. You know, I think myths matter, and how we tell the story of this country matter a lot.